Welcome, Queen. Have you ever noticed how it's very easy to see what everybody else is doing wrong while dismissing or maybe even letting yourself off the hook for how you show up in conversations? You know why? Because typically it is very easy for us to identify when someone else has done something or said something that may be hurtful to us. But still, I want you to know that there are some times that the conversation keeps going left because of your patterns. And that's why today I'm going to name a few patterns that just may be causing conflict in your conversations. And I invite you to really reflect on whether or not these are patterns that you have, because recognition is the first step to being able to get to the root of why your conversations keep going to the left. So here they are. Do you find yourself shutting down when emotions rise? Do you find yourself over explaining yourself so you can be understood in your conversations? Do you find yourself avoiding hard conversations, meaning you just putting them off until you just can't put them off anymore? Do you find yourself getting defensive, especially very quickly? Or do you find yourself showing up in conversations expecting other people to read your mind, to read between the lines, meaning you said something, but you really didn't say it? Is that you? Here's the thing. I share these again so you can evaluate whether or not these patterns show up in your conversations, not to condemn you. Because, again, if you cannot see them, they could be underneath the issues that are causing you issues, and you just may not know it. Now, if you found yourself saying, you know what, I identify with one of those patterns, or actually I identify with more than one of those patterns, the good thing is you have recognition of what could possibly be causing conflict in your conversations. Now, if you say, I didn't identify with any of those, then you may have a blind spot, or you could have another pattern that is the culprit that's causing conflict in your conversations. In any case, I want you to know this. Even if you may think it's not your fault because somebody else started it, they initiated a problem, they caused the conflict, they started an argument, that very well could be very true. Because maybe they did exactly what you're saying. And still the issue remains that if you keep having the same emotional patterns show up time and time again in your arguments, in your conversations, in your day-to-day life, and they keep happening in different relationships with different people in different places and spaces, at some point you have to be willing to stop focusing on the other person or the other people and take a look and examine your own behavior too. And here's what I want you to know. I have personally had to do the same work because I had to get to a place where I understood that while I was well intended, good intentions don't automatically translate into well received communication. Meaning, I intended for the conversation to go well. I intended to show up and communicate in such a way that I was well received. And the result was quite the opposite. It was more conflict, more arguing, more back and forth, more of things being unresolved. So I intended one thing, but my results showed and produced something else. And so I was able to see that So I was able to see that my communication and my conversations were not always healthy. And that means that there are times I realized that while I cared deeply, I didn't always communicate clearly and effectively. So I had to get to the root of what was causing the issues in my communication that was showing up in my conversations. And so the takeaway here, or the lesson, is that you shouldn't feel condemned if you keep having conflict show up in your conversations through your communication. It lets you know that something is going on and it's calling your attention so that you can address it. And awareness is a critical step in getting to the root of why your conversations keep going to the left. And so the key is to become aware. And awareness, again, is not condemnation. It's clarity that there's something going on and it's calling your attention, and it's going to keep calling your attention until you address it properly. And it's important that you address it because you cannot change what you don't recognize, and you cannot recognize what you don't see as a pattern. So you won't stop the pattern. So you won't think to stop the pattern if you don't recognize that the pattern is now causing you problems. But on the other hand, if you recognize that I have some patterns and they are causing me some conflict in my conversations, then book a discovery call, because together we'll get to the root of what is driving your conversations to go to the left. Meaning, we're going to identify where the dysfunction is happening so that you can approach conversations with more clarity, more composure, and more peace. Because peace in your conversations isn't inevitable. Peace in your conversations is the result of doing intentional work to ensure you approach your conversations like they matter, because you know they actually do. As always, I'm C. Sam telling you that 24 hours doesn't seem long, but in 24 hours, you can change your life. So go ahead and do something life-changing now.